You're listening to Market the Brew, a leading resource for promoting and marketing craft beer. Join in as we share with you, straight from the source, tools and strategies craft brewers from around the country are using right now to achieve significant success. It started out as a conversation and evolved into a three-part series on multiple location breweries. In episode 48, we discussed with Mike Doble of the Explorium Brewpub in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the challenges with opening a second brewery across town. Not only did Mike open a new brewery across town, but he did so during the COVID shutdown. The podcast we're working on right now is with a brewery that is in the process of opening a new location across the state. And in the episode you're about to listen to, we discuss the challenges in building a new brewery across state lines. In fact, it's a 5-hour drive between the two locations, and that's on a good day. Not only does the distance present some challenges, but the state laws also present challenges. In fact, their home state only allows them to have a single taproom. So over the past 10 years, as they grew, they had to decide if they wanted to become a contract brewery to push out volumes of beer as part of their growth strategy, or to find a new location and build a new taproom. With the success they've had in their original brewery, they chose the latter, as they wanted to share the taproom experience and their beers with a new city and new customers. They chose Wisconsin as the customer demographics are similar to their home brewery, with a strong Midwestern ethic and blue-collar workforce. Milwaukee has many attributes that are similar, but still has a unique vibe that allows for the pilot house to develop and create new brews that are well received not only in Milwaukee, but in the Minneapolis taproom as well. But before we start the podcast, a quick reminder that the Market the Brew podcast is available at marketthebrew.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio Podcasts, and other popular podcast sites. The video of these episodes will be available on the Promote the Brew YouTube channel for you to watch or listen in. We hope that you will join us. Share these episodes with your family and friends. Now, find a comfortable place to sit, grab a glass of your favorite beer, kick back and relax as you listen in as Daniel and Travis meet with Morgan Halaska and Ryan Bandy from Indeed Brewing Company based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. They share more about themselves, the two brewery locations, and the challenges of opening and managing a brewery and taproom located 340 miles away from each other. We hope you enjoy the episode. Cheers.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
I'm going to start by asking you to introduce yourselves.
I'm Morgan Halaska. I'm the marketing director at Indeed Brewing Company.
I'm Ryan Bandy, and I'm the Director of Experiences. It's a long title. It's basically overseeing our sales, marketing, and tap rooms. So anything where our beer is experienced by people, whether visually or in taste or on our own premises.
Any kind of experience.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
what made you guys get into the brewing scene, to the brewing community?
I always loved beer. I never intentionally, wanted to be part of the industry. It was always one that I enjoyed, but the perfect job opened up at the perfect time that I was like, I'm never getting this job, and then I got the job, and here I am.
Good.
I've been at Indeed for 9 years, and so back then, I don't know. I just wanted to work somewhere like new and strange and cool. I started like in the brewing side of things because I was a cook, and so there was like that creative side that I was really excited to explore. Then from there, you just see all the different possibilities within a brewery, between like front of house, like tap rooms and brewing and sales, and so it's kind of like a thing that I have fallen in love with from that side of things, being there like early almost.
Yeah, and there's so many different options too, so you can explore those too within the brewery scene.
Yeah, definitely. There's it's so wild. like when we started in Minneapolis, we were the 16th brewery in the state, and now there's like 170 or 100. And that was only 10 years ago, right? So it's like
It's booming.
it's crazy how fast it can expand and how many different angles there are, even within just breweries.
There's new breweries every day that's just opening.
Yeah.
Now they're closing now too.
Yeah, right.
Shoot.
So how long has Indeed been in business? When did you guys start?
So that was 10 years ago. Actually, like right now, 10 years ago, late August, early September.
Okay.
Opened the tap room in Minneapolis, and then 3 years ago, right about now, we opened the Milwaukee pilot brewery and tap room. That was early September.
September 6th.
September 6th. So yeah, so yeah, we have. It's been a minute for us in a weird way, and then like kind of then becoming the new ones in a different city, which is like been a different experience. But yeah, being 10 years old in brewery years is a lot of years in like business years.
And successful.
Yeah.
I feel like Indeed in Milwaukee's been here for longer than 3 years.
Yeah.
I feel like it's
Awesome.
always been
Yeah,
here.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome
Yeah.
that people think that. That was definitely our goal. is
Yeah.
To like do it right and do it from the ground up to where
Yeah.
it feels like it's a part of the community and you know, inspired by the city and the neighborhood. Yeah.
How big, square foot wise, would you say is Minnesota compared to like the Wisconsin one?
This is bigger, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Taproom wise.
For sure.
Yeah, we've got an auxiliary tap room in Minneapolis that might help it like compete, but like this tap room alone is bigger.
Square
than
foot
Minneapolis.
wise, I think it's probably maybe 2,500 or 3,000, or maybe 2,000, 2,500 in Minneapolis, and this is probably 5-ish, 4 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one's quite a bit bigger in terms of the tap room.
Yeah.
Now our production facility up there is another 15 or 18,000 square foot, so much bigger production up there than here. But yeah.
And then do you guys have a patio like the one in Milwaukee in Minnesota?
Yeah,
I mean,
so we were lucky. We have a patio connected to like it was a parking lot pre-COVID, and now post-COVID is like just a really big, expansive outdoor space that we kind of took over. We realized you could fit a lot of people in like 8 parking spots. You know, it's like maybe we could just fit people here instead of cars. So we have a pretty big outdoor space there, and then like a smaller.
Yeah, the patio
kind
here
of
is
like-
awesome.
Yeah.
Just the sight lines when you go all the way up top is just you can see pretty much the
over there.
Summerfest and everything.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, we took the family here one
Yeah.
night and we're like, we're gonna show you Milwaukee. And we went all the way upstairs on the rooftop and we're like,
Yeah.
you can see the Home Bridge, you can see the clock tower, you can
Yeah.
see Miller Park, our American Family.
No, it's Miller Park.
No.
It's always gonna
Yeah.
be Miller Park no matter
Or
what.
County Stadium.
Yeah.
Roughly how many barrels per year do you produce, and what markets are you in besides Milwaukee and Minnesota?
I think we determined, we were talking about this, it's
Yeah.
about like 19,000 in Minneapolis, almost 1,000 here.
Okay.
Yeah, because the pilot brewery down here does all the beer that's sold in the tap room in Milwaukee, and then kind of like trickles into the market around the Milwaukee area, and then our Minneapolis production kind of feeds all over the rest of our markets that we're in, and that's really it's only Minnesota, Wisconsin, and then North Dakota. So those are the only 2.5 markets. sorry, any North Dakota followers. It's like the main majority of our beer is sold in Minnesota. A wide majority in the Twin Cities up there, and then actually Milwaukee is like the next biggest market for us, and then kind of in between in the rural Minnesota and Wisconsin markets, and then some beer in Fargo and kind of that area. But that's kind of all that we distribute to.
Okay. And then you
At
work
this
with the
point.
distributor then as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So we have one distributor network in all of Wisconsin, kind of like different houses called General Beverage or General Beer. So they take our beer all over Wisconsin. And then we have a bunch of different wholesalers in Minnesota, kind of like in the different areas there. Yeah. For a long time, we self-distributed though in Minneapolis.
Oh, wow.
For a very long time, we self-distributed until we were. Just this past January, until we were 16,000 barrels or 17,000
Wow,
barrels.
you guys are doing that many just
Yeah, it was wild. We were one of the top, I think it was like the top 10 self-distributors in the country. Yeah, it was a wild, we had a full full team of
That's impressive.
full chillers. Yeah, it's crazy. It was a crazy business model.
And you can only self-distribute up to a certain amount.
Yeah, in Minnesota there's a cap,
Yeah.
so we kind of had to go with the wholesaler because we had started to get closer to the cap. So, yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the Milwaukee and Minneapolis location. You mentioned that Minneapolis opened first. What made you choose Milwaukee for your second location?
It was really to get more like integrated into like, and you probably can speak better to this, but like we wanted to expand into Wisconsin. We didn't want to just put our beer in a truck and have a distributor take it and not have that personal connection. So it was like we couldn't open. Minnesota has a rule that you cannot have 2 tap rooms in the state. So we were always wanting to open another tap room. It was just a matter of where. Wisconsin makes sense. We're right next to it, and it kind of helped us like embed ourselves in the community and make sure that like people knew who we were, and we weren't just like some, we weren't just like Minneapolis made beer like showing up in Wisconsin.
Yeah. It's also weird too, where like probably a third of the brewery that work at the Minneapolis location are from Wisconsin somewhere.
Really?
It's like so many people.
Yeah.
You know, like Milwaukee area, or kind of like Northeast area, or just outside of Madison, or Eau Claire, or or went to Stout. Like maybe they grew up somewhere else, where like so there's just like a lot of that connection that like over time you start to see it and feel it, and you're like. Honestly, like so many fucking Packer fans, Sorry, for a Vikings fan, it's just annoying when like half of your coworkers, But it was like that thing where you kind of build it up, and then we don't ever want to be like a 20-state brewery. It's just never going to happen. And so when we looked at like our long-term plan, you have Minnesota, all right, then you have Wisconsin, which has another 4 or 5 million people. But besides that, like our other directions, it's kind of smaller areas. Chicago is a tough bit. Like, I don't think we're ever going to go there. So it's like, how do we actually win Wisconsin in the long term and make ourselves relevant? And the only way is like to do it the right way, which is the tap room, actually hire people from this, like actually make beers that are inspired by another city, not like from your same city, not from the same brains. And then when you looked at Wisconsin, you had a few options, right? Like there's a few places that something like this could work. But Milwaukee always felt like Northeast Minneapolis, I think, which is where we're from, Minneapolis.
Point in particular.
Yeah, Walker's Point always felt like better. Like Madison was like, there's cool parts, but it's like, it doesn't totally feel like where we kind of like started. And other parts of Wisconsin are awesome, rural, like gorgeous. God, it doesn't totally feel like what like our genesis was as a company, and where like our vibrant, like kind of where our vibrations are. And so Milwaukee always felt that way, and definitely like Walker's Point was always like, this feels a lot like, it's not the same, but it just has the same like,
Yeah.
I don't know, intangible things that where we
Yes.
started from, I think.
Industrial, just kind of
Yeah.
more,
And what you were saying too, like you didn't want it to be specifically a Minnesota brewery. When we first came to Indeed, we didn't realize you had a
Literally,
Minnesota
we
location.
didn't know.
We always thought you started here.
Totally.
So we were kind
Yeah.
of bummed to hear like we weren't the first one.
Don't be bummed. No.
that is like an authentic
Yeah.
experience though.
Yeah.
Like, we love
Yeah, that's cool, because that's
Yeah.
like has been a goal of ours. That's like, it's hard. It's like hard to do that. Like, it's hard to just say like, become authentic, right? Like
Yeah.
that sounds like some Applebee's thing. Like we're an authentic neighborhood. Or, it's like, it's actually like, you have to like, okay, we got to make sure that they like people feel that they actually have the decisions, right? Like the head brewer down here, actually like, make what you want to make whenever you want to make it, right?
Wow.
Like, how do you do that in a way that like is true, but also, at some level like a part of the larger thing, is like a tough balance. So it's cool to hear that like energy that like people didn't know.
Yeah, and you guys will want to come to Minneapolis and see the other side too. I think that like there's a lot of back and forth like that.
And it's cool, like on Instagram, there's a lot of people we follow from Minnesota and like people from Wisconsin, and they visit each tap room. So we're always like, well, which one are you at? They look so similar. Like the beer
And
looks the same.
People who tag us
same names.
get confused too. I'm like,
Yeah.
Don't forget to follow Indeed
Right.
Milwaukee.
That's actually how I figured out there was a second location. So I
Great.
followed the wrong Instagram. It's like, wait a second.
Hold on,
right?
Yeah.
Huh.
And that's always like interesting too, because we're never trying to like hide it, right? It's not like this thing that's like, oh no, like let's act like we're not that.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a balance of, we like people to know, because these are the two. It's not like we're going to keep expanding the cities, right? Like we don't have like infinite amount of money to just like keep expanding. Like that's our business model. It is like these two cities for the long term, because there's a lot of people in between. But it is like we want people to know a little bit about our connection between the two cities, because it's slightly unique. But you know, at the same time, like it's not all about Minneapolis here, and certainly not all about Milwaukee and Minneapolis. So you keep them separated naturally, but it isn't like a thing we're trying to hide behind a curtain either necessarily. So, yeah.
And then you said you had like brew everything for this location in the tap room here.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever like make specific beers for each location?
Yeah.
And then do you ever swap them at the brewery?
Yeah. So we definitely do. There's a couple beers from Minneapolis that usually end up on tap down here.
Oktoberfest.
Oh,
Yeah, Oktoberfest. Flavor Wave is a really big one.
Day Tripper.
Yeah, sometimes Day Tripper is on down here. So like they'll get sprinkled in down here. Yeah, some of our long aged sour beers that we do that are just easier to do in Minneapolis with the space end up down here. And then we just started a Milwaukee tap line in Minneapolis. So just like a week ago, we're gonna have a rotating line in Minneapolis that probably like every week or even sooner, like more often, it'll go between different kegs that are brewed down here, because everyone in Minneapolis is very jealous of all the cool shit that happens in Milwaukee, because it's like new beer after new beer and that crazy thing and that crazy thing, because we get, you know, it's a pilot brewery, so we get to like have more fun down here. And so it was a long time of people, you know, especially working in Minneapolis, being like, what? They always get cool beers all the time and all the new ones. So now we're starting the Milwaukee line up there that I think is really fun for us to be able to like highlight some of these weird things that we don't get to do.
Yeah, and I think like we like specifically call it out on our menu in Minneapolis, where we don't do that here because it's it's more special when it's in Minneapolis and you know it's from Milwaukee, and either you know have some connection to Milwaukee or you don't know that like we have a location here. So it is really like, I think it is a really special thing to like, you know, have people experience like some sort of like connection to Milwaukee in Minneapolis.
And the beers are different down here. They are just like, for whatever reason, like they make different beers. They choose different styles. They, you know, like there's a Czech Pilsner on. That's probably one of my favorite beers that we make.
That's what I'm
so delicious. And it's just like a thing that like, though there's like a lot of like Eastern European, like and Western European influence in Minneapolis, it's just like not the same. Like we probably wouldn't have done that. I don't know. Like there are just some of those things that get chosen for the neighborhood or the area down here that then when you have it in Minneapolis, like, damn, this is really good, you know. But we probably would have never done that.
Yeah, I mean, they have like smaller tanks, but like they don't have to like brew it to scale. Like we can just like test things, and like, it's not that big of a deal if a beer doesn't work out. It is a deal, big deal, but it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah.
So, were there any challenges to opening a new brewery in a new state?
Besides like the obviously the different laws.
Nope, easy peasy. Not one challenge the whole time. Smooth sailing. Yeah, there's all types of fucking challenges.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so we self-distributed down here for a few months too. So we would like do the thing where we ran a van down to Milwaukee, and sold to like the, you know, the cool beer bars like the Bernhardt's and the places that always get those types of beers. And so from that moment till now, you know, there's a lot of challenges to both getting the space open to begin with, finding the space, but then like finding that balance between what's too much oversight, right, from Minneapolis, which is just a bigger operation. There's more people, there's more brewers, there's quality control, there's like, you know, there's an accountant, there's like multiple marketing people, right? Like it's a bigger operation. And so finding that balance between how do we work together and on the same team about things and help each other out, and then how do we let like each Minneapolis and Milwaukee be their own thing, right? So decide what's the beer that they're gonna brew, what's the brand that they're gonna release. Like I think that's probably logistically like been the hardest or the slowest process to learning, is that finding that balance between letting, you obviously want to just like, yeah, do whatever you want, but then also it's like, hey, we have all this experience up here. We have 10 years of making mistakes, right? We fucked up so many times. It's like, oh no, we tried that. Don't do that again. So like it's fine. It's like finding that balance of like trying to say like, actually, probably don't do that one. We tried that, it didn't work, and also say, give it a shot. Let's see what happens.
Right, it's a different market too. So you
right,
never
totally
know, it
different
could be-
market. Yeah. And are the lessons we learned even right to begin with? Like I don't know. Like maybe not. Or are they the same?
Like people don't like the beer there, but hey, you
maybe
never
like
know
that.
down here.
Totally.
Yeah,
Maybe
for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's like that intricacies of like trying to find that balance of separate like areas, separate towns, but also trying to unify like the power of having a few different locations, having all that energy. Yeah.
It's interesting though, like talking to people from different states and just hearing their distribution laws and like their
Yeah.
expectations of holding in a tap room and distribution.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned like, you were saying like you couldn't open a second tap room in Minnesota, and then self-distribution was only up to a certain amount. Are there any other really drastic changes or differences with the laws? Because there are a few other breweries in Wisconsin versus Minnesota that have different expectations.
Like there's one, it comes on like little things too. Like it's easy for us to like close the street, pull a permit and close the street here and like put on like a festival.
Milwaukee?
In Milwaukee, sorry, in Milwaukee. In Minneapolis, it's like thousands of dollars.
Really?
Like a lot of like lead time, but like it's like little operational things like that it's like, we always joke that like you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, it's like not exactly true, but compared to Minneapolis, it can feel that way, I mean, you can also sell beer off premise. You can sell beer from your tap room off premise. So in Minneapolis, all you can sell is crowlers and growlers. We can't sell 6-packs. We can't sell 750s. We can't sell 16-ounce cans. There are some breweries that just recently, this past February, got passed. If you're a smaller brewery in Minneapolis, you can start to sell your cans off, but there's a pretty small cap, like volume cap on that, like 7,000 or 7,500 barrels. So, breweries like us, like we can't sell our beer, 12-packs, 6-packs, all that. So we can't sell it off the off premise. And then on the other side right now, THC got legalized in Minnesota. So we're selling a THC seltzer
which
in
no one
Minneapolis.
thought like Minnesota would have.
No way.
Wow.
So yeah, there's definitely like weird intricacies that you have to try to follow.
I have an embarrassing story.
Yeah, tell it.
Our friends from Minnesota took us to a brewery while we were in Minnesota. I think it was Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And we went to the brewery and they had some beer I wanted. And I was like, hey, can I grab a 6-pack?
It was your
And they're
Taylor
like,
Swift beer that they made.
yeah,
right?
there's something like, something like special.
That was the embarrassing part.
And I was like, can I get a 6-pack? And he's like, no.
We're like,
And I was like, did you sell
What?
it out?
What do you
He's
mean?
like, no, I can't sell it to you.
Yeah.
I was like,
Like,
why? I'm
what do you mean?
21.
Yeah,
what?
totally.
I was like, I'm from Wisconsin. We can just do whatever.
No,
we
that's
want.
embarrassing for Minnesota.
Yeah,
That's
it's
embarrassing.
embarrassing.
That's
Yeah.
embarrassing for us, like up there, to be like, no, we can't.
There-
For some reason, it's like I don't know.
I
it's
just
like
did not
old.
understand.
I don't. No
Why
one.
can't I have
No
it?
one.
Some people compute that, but like
Yeah.
Minnesota did pass the law where it was called the growler cap law. Like we were getting to a certain point in our production that we weren't going to be able to sell growlers and crowlers. So we finally, after a couple of legislative sessions, got that passed. But it also allowed some smaller breweries to sell 6-packs, 4-packs, all of that. But we're not too big to actually do that
Really?
Yeah.
in Minnesota.
And
So
for a
we
long
still can't do
time, there was a cap 20. I think it was 25 or 20,000 barrels. That if you hit that, you couldn't even sell growlers. So you couldn't sell any beer off your
Oh
like
my God.
Surly, Fulton, Summit, Shells, any of these breweries in Minnesota that are more than that.
Yeah.
Couldn't sell any beer off their premise at all. No crowlers, no growlers, no nothing. And which is like
tough over COVID.
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's so wild. It's just like it was a wild like, and now it's not there. And it's like, but for a long time it was like this law that's just like absurd. It's an absurd thing. It's like you're making all this beer, like you can't even sell it. And,
You're too successful.
Right.
Yeah.
and I understand like there's, as far as the 6-packs and the 4-packs and the 12-packs, there's like, I understand the intricacies with the wholesalers and, our brewery's going to sell their 12-packs for $5 a 12-pack because their margin is a little better. Like that's the worry, but like, I don't know. I mean, they're going to devalue the brand if they're going to do that. Like, you hope that we can all understand, find some balance there, I guess, I
We
don't know.
definitely take that for granted here in Milwaukee.
For sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys don't see that. Like, you never have to go to the liquor store. Like, I'm sure you don't think that.
No, we can
Yeah,
just
you still go to the
grab
liquor store,
anything to
yeah.
go.
Yeah, but just having the option, I think, is that's how we see it. Is like just being able to provide that option.
So now every time we travel to new states, I always look up on
Yeah.
Google what are
Like
the
the
laws,
different
so I don't
laws.
embarrass myself.
It's like only one. It's like we're one of 3 states or something. I can't. I don't know.
Yeah, there wasn't that many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For both locations, does each location have like a specific beer that sells the best, or do they kind of have like one
No,
that sells the
we
same,
have one
or like
that sells the best at both
both
locations.
locations? Okay.
Pistachio cream ale.
Yes. I
had a
had a
feeling.
feeling of that one
It's a
too.
good one.
Yeah.
The thing is like it's like a rocket ship or something, some metaphor for something that is going straight up in terms of popularity. It was made down here the first time as a pilot batch, sold like crazy down here.
Yep.
We heard about it in Minneapolis, like our sales, the head brewer and the salesperson that was down here is like, this actually sold really well, people really love it. So it was like, all right, we'll try it in Minneapolis too. Sold up there, made it up there, sold like crazy. They've kept making it down here ever since then. It's kept selling like crazy down here. Then we did like some cans of it, right? A one-off,
Yep.
sold like crazy.
Like,
Then we did
keep it,
we did another one-off that was like bigger. We sold it to more areas. We sold it all the way, into the rural areas. Sold like crazy. Sold out.
Just it was nonstop. And that
Like
was
every
in the midst
batch
of, it was
in
2020.
COVID,
Yeah, during
in the middle of COVID,
Yeah.
where like people were coming. I remember like a couple months into COVID, we were just selling a lot of crowlers, right? We were trying to like keep the business afloat, so we were selling a ton of crowlers in Minneapolis, and we did a batch of pistachio cream ale, and we had people. There were a lot of people super supportive in the neighborhood, obviously in Minneapolis, that were like, yeah, I'll take a couple crowlers of that, a couple crowlers of that. When we had pistachio cream ale out, we would get orders that would come in online that were like 12 crowlers of pistachio cream ale, 10 crowlers of pistachio, like one after another, and they'd come up and they would like, this is my favorite beer of all time, and they would be there like every day. Like it was intense. It felt like I was like overwhelmed by it,
Yeah.
like the amount of people that like loved it.
Yeah.
And so like that was, and it just really hasn't stopped. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. It was really fun to see. Like
Definitely, like we were definitely able to meet the demand finally, so it
Yeah.
feels like consistent, but it has been like
Yeah.
very consistent.
because it's basically like early 2020 was the first time we did it down here, and now it's like 12 packs, 6 packs. All over our distribution area. It's the best selling beer up here. It's
Yeah.
down here. So it's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, we started with like our one-off label. It wasn't like we thought we were gonna do this beer once and that was it. And so the label, the can now looks different from the original beer
16
because
ounce.
yeah, it was a 16-ounce label, like something that our in-house creative director made, and then we gave it to our Minneapolis local artist Chuck Yu, who's done a lot of like the cans that people
His
know
art's
and love.
everywhere.
His art's all over Milwaukee and Minneapolis, but we gave that to him to design something new, like after it had gained all this popularity. So it really evolved to like meet that demand.
Yeah.
And we see that little pistachio man everywhere.
Everywhere.
People wear the shirts.
The dude
like,
is everywhere.
People are
I know.
painting them,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Everywhere.
remember when that artist, so Chuck Yu, when he started to, he took the beer, and it's actually one of his favorite beers too.
Yeah,
And so
he
he
loves
like
it.
kind of like made this art, and one of the first things, he usually does like a few different sketches to start with, and then we kind of go back and forth. And one of the things was that pistachio guy character, right? And you saw it and you're like, oh, that is it, right? Like totally. And he like it's expanded it. There's like a few different versions of it.
Yeah, they all have different personalities.
Yeah, some of them are like kind of creepy. Like
One
some of
got
them
a
are,
bow tie.
yeah, some are like,
It's
yeah,
got the mustachio
yeah.
and pistachio.
yeah, it was like it was too good, especially for our brand. It was just like,
It fit in,
yeah, it's very fun.
Does he have
That
like
beer.
a secret name? Like, has he been named yet?
Holy
I
shit.
think I had like offhandedly started calling him like I think a lot of people call him Mr. Pistachio, but then like pistachio. I think it's pistachio guy is like he doesn't have a name,
awesome.
but
Oh man, maybe name the pistachio guy is the next marketing campaign.
yeah.
Here you go.
That look she gave me, that's the look where like I have an idea. And she's like,
It's like it could go south real
okay,
quick.
yeah, that's not.
People
Are we
just
checking
making like the
Instagram?
worst
Yeah,
names.
she's like, that's not gonna happen. We're gonna have to name it like it's like in Minneapolis. What was the Plowy McPlowface or whatever?
Yeah.
They made a new
Yes.
snow plow in Minneapolis, and they allowed
my
people
God.
to choose the name. And of course, like Plowy McPlowface or whatever, like you know.
You think it's gonna go well, then like people just make the dumbest
Yeah,
names.
that's what gets the most votes. So you're like, God dang it. Yeah.
So I was reading that the Minneapolis location has Cicerone certified beer tenders.
Yeah.
Are they all Cicerone certified, or is that a requirement, or it just happened?
Yeah, so we are actually like we're like so it's Cicerone beer server certified. So it's not like level 1. It's like a beer server certification that they have, and we did that for a very long time, and I'm actually like just starting that back up. So with COVID, there was like a weird version of like what is even people were just like filling growlers and so I would say that probably I think 1 or 2 people down here are, and I would say maybe 50% of the people in Minneapolis are.
Okay.
And I've like literally like probably a month ago I just got like a bunch of different logins for the test or the class and the test, and we're like passing them out like in the next month
That's
for
awesome.
everyone. So yeah, that was always like a thing, and we're gonna like get back. It's like funny you bring that up. I was just looking at that email this week and be like, okay, that's how many do we have? How many do we need? But yes, yeah, it's like I think it's a bare minimum type of thing that the business can do to support the staff, and like serving the beer that is the only thing that we we don't sell wine, we don't sell liquor. It's like this is what we do. This is the most important part of our jobs, and that one I loved that. Like, that beer server certification, like it taught you a lot. So yeah,
I'm
ask
in
us again in a
awe.
couple months.
I'm in
Yeah,
awe of that because I'm horrible at explaining like flavors.
Yeah.
and what I'm tasting. Usually my answer is just beer. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just so bad at it. So I'm always impressed when people are certified and they can describe all
Yeah.
of the flavors.
Yeah.
yeah. I think one of the best things I remember from that, and then there's one of our bartenders in Minneapolis. Was heavy in wine, like sold wine very, very long time, and he told me once that just say what you think you're tasting. Don't say what you think you should say. So just like connect it to your brain and just say it. Like this
Yeah.
tastes like the beer my dad used to drink, or whatever it is, right? Like to get you started.
Doesn't have to be like
Yeah.
totally like because I do understand the intimidating factor because I'm
Like
like
follow
I
the
don't know.
rules.
Yeah.
Like what's the rule? What am I supposed to say it smells like?
Yeah, and it's like I think we're trying to get away from that where it's like because we've all gotten used to saying the same thing, and it's like okay, but like really, like does that mean anything to you? And like what does it mean to you specifically? So
Or
and it's-
Patrick, our head brewer in Milwaukee, is like so good at that.
He is,
where
yeah. He does
you'll
really
ask him
unique,
about
yeah.
tasting notes, and he'll be like, "It kind of tastes like, the way like when you have like a sour gummy bear, but you like chase it with a little bit of Sprite or something, right? Like he'll like have these like very personal, like honest representations of tasting
Yeah.
notes in like a very kind of not lowbrow, but like just a very honest way that makes it way more accessible. That's like not so obviously like those words that are like in the server kind of Cicerone world. It's like those are important, and they are a lot of times. You're like, yeah, you smell grapefruit or whatever, but it is. I do think that like the first rule is to remember that like the way you taste it is right. Like you don't have to have like you don't have to have some like there's not like a right or a wrong way to taste it. Just like lean into it and be like, what does this taste like? It's like I don't know, it tastes like, and like even beer is a good one. Like sometimes like beer just like honestly like the Czech Pilsner, I don't know how else to, like sometimes like grassy or something that the
Yeah.
words come up, but sometimes I'm just like fucking beer.
Yeah.
Like it just tastes like beer.
Yeah.
You know? So
Well, it's such a nice thing to have, such great knowledge to have, because a lot of people that come to breweries that might not drink beer, they don't know what they
For
like.
sure.
Or like when I first started drinking beer, I'd always ask, what tastes like a blue moon?
Yep.
I like the blue moon.
Yeah,
Perfect.
for sure.
So it was kind of like dumbed down for me. Like,
Yeah.
So I like the like gummy bear analogy because
Yeah.
I get it.
And we
can
always
picture it.
Yeah.
talk about here, like, meet people where they're at. Like, if people are asking for a blue moon, do the work for them. You know what that means? It's soft, it's wheat, probably wheat based. There's like an orange or a tropical quality.
Yeah.
Like, those are the things. Like, don't ask them for another thing. Don't tell them you don't have blue moon. Come on. Like,
Yeah.
like meet them where they're at. Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
We probably have something on tap that will get you pretty close, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
if you're into the beer, like, you can get there. I always say, like, what do you like to drink? That was my, like, the
Yeah.
best question. If they're like, honestly, like, normally just like red wine. Cool. We have this sour that was like aged in red wine barrels. It's a little tart. Do you like tart things?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Try it. Right. Like,
Yeah.
there's like not like I don't know. I get annoyed when there's like this like kind of intimidating nature about breweries that like make
Yeah.
people like, oh man, I don't know,
Right.
I don't know enough. It's like, yes, you do. It's fine. Like,
It's kind of like coffee shops too. Like I've been
Yeah.
to, like, you feel intimidated at a coffee shop, and I'm like, I don't know,
Right.
like I just want like a drip coffee,
Right.
and like feeling like that's not enough. But it is really just like
Can I get a sample?
I get a sample of
Yeah.
dark roast. Like
Yeah.
that's not so much a thing as it is here, but it is really like no one. Like our goal is not to make you feel like you know what you want to order. It's like always give samples. We have all of our tasting notes on the menu. Like you should be able to like kind of get like what you're ordering and like be happy with it too.
yeah, the goal is like, here, you're actually gonna like this. Like, you're not gonna have to choke it down because
Right.
your friend brought you to the brewery and you're like, fuck, I
Yeah.
don't like beer. Like,
Yeah.
where our goal, like our lineup in both places is always like, okay, this one's for the people that hate beer, and we have multiple multiple things on tap for sure. We have a hard kombucha. We have like pretty tart sour beers. We have like things that are like pretty off the beaten path of beer, or they're they're just like different. Where people that like don't like beer,
I say there's people that just don't like beer.
yeah, and then you
Try
have.
pistachio beer.
I mean, seriously, yeah, that one. Like, there's a lot of those things that like you at least give them a shot, or like, yeah, sour beers. Like, I don't even know what they taste like sometimes. Like a sour beer with a ton of cherry that's been aged in red wine barrel. Like that doesn't even. I don't know what that doesn't. Definitely doesn't taste like a Czech Pilsner. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know. So I think that goal is like how craft beer has been able to bring more people in, is like trying to create more options for everyone. You know.
Well, and another positive thing that your brewery is doing is you have a charitable giving program called Indeed We Can. What is that program? What does it do?
It's employee driven, so like all of our employees have the opportunity to nominate a nonprofit at the beginning of the year that will get scheduled out for the year on Wednesdays, every Wednesday from open to close. Like all of our net proceeds will go to this organization. So it kind of gives us like the employees an opportunity to like kind of show like what it means, like what is important to them, but also like include the community.
Yeah. And then community tie is so important.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
gets your name out there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so awesome. It's like, yeah, it's one of the coolest things the company does, if not the coolest thing. Honestly, I mean, it's every Wednesday at both locations. It's like $750,000 or something since we
Yeah.
started. It's like a ridiculous amount of money, especially for a company that doesn't do billions of or millions of
Yeah.
many millions of dollars a year. It's like crazy that over time we can do it. Yeah, it's cool as hell. Each Wednesday night's totally different, right? It could be like dog adoption to a juggling nonprofit to like super intense, like all the intense
Yeah.
things that like our communities have to deal
Yeah.
with, like
Yeah.
like all the important shit too. Like all of that stuff is like you never know. We have lots of regulars that come in on Wednesdays that are just like, which one is it?
Aw.
Like I don't know. Like I don't care. Like whatever it is, you're drinking all the gear shop stuff, all the shirts, all the beer to go, all the pints you buy, everything, all the profits go. So it's fun to see, a lot of those like nonprofits too, like they blow it out. Like once they know, they're like, wait, all the profits?
Aw.
Then
Yeah.
they'll be like,
Yeah.
they're like, everyone I know, come drink all night,
Yeah,
it's
and
great.
that's what it's become. A lot of organizations have returned year after year, and they've kind of
Yeah.
gotten in, like they make a whole event out of it.
Wow.
A lot of organizations, like it's an opportunity for them to invite like their coworkers, like all their supporters out to like a fun night and
Yeah.
like kind of
Yeah.
and then like get
And
spread the
introduction,
word.
yeah, introduction too, right? Because like these nonprofits, like a lot of them are fairly small. Like normally they're a little smaller because it's just like our employees are picking them, and so they're usually smaller, more community-driven ones that are also part of it is like being able to talk to people about what they do, and so it's like the money is good, but then also like if there's 100 people in here that night that they can go around and like talk to about this nonprofit, like if 10% of those people show up later for them, so it's like a big kind of for them too, it's community awareness thing. It's like a cool
I mean, it's been like win all around. It started in Minneapolis, like not quite a year, like maybe 6 or 7 months after we opened in 2012, and then we were only open Thursday to Sunday. And Tom, I think it was Tom.
Yeah, it was Tom. There was another. I think it was someone that was working in the tap room at the time had that idea, or had a general idea when we were going to open Wednesdays. He was like, "Hey, we kind of want to open Wednesdays. People start like kind of they're showing up at the door. What should we do?" And it was like, "We should give our profits away." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool." To who? And then like that was the weird. Like, okay, that's a little weird. Like if we're going to give them like to everyone, and then it's like I don't know, let's pick a different one every week. And that was like easier for a while, and then it was like, oh shit, every week is like a lot of weeks, And then you realize what you're doing. Yeah, you're like, shit, that's like at least 40. But then you're like, how are we gonna find it? Then it's like, oh wait, all these people that work here probably know at least a couple of nonprofits that they're someone or something that helped them out. Like we've had a few that like some crazy ones of like employees that like leaned on a nonprofit right at like the worst time in their lives, and now they're like working and they're like, oh, I'd love to be able to give back. And that's cool too. Like it's functionally for me as an employee, like it's basically like I get to cut a check to some employee that it's like way more than I can cut checks for on an average. And so like you get to choose a nonprofit that you're like, yeah, like come on in and like let's blow it up, because then like you get all this money, and it's like a cool personal thing too for a lot of people with a lot of nonprofits, for sure. For me, a few of them.
Yeah, and like the organization involved and the employee that nominate, like they're all involved, and it's kind of just, it's like a good thing. And then when we don't have organizations, sometimes there's weeks that we don't have one. It goes to our general fund, which we've used for a bunch of different causes that come up like throughout the year. Earlier this year, we donated funds from our general fund to 2 of our bartenders that got in a horrible accident earlier this year. And then just, helping like a place that burned down or had a really bad fire, and helping like reconstruct after the riots in Minneapolis. And so we
it's like the one-off, like crazy one-off shit that like happens that you're like, dang, I wish I could help.
Yeah.
That's kind of like we have this general fund that like luckily then like, okay, cool, we have some amount of money that we get to lean on for stuff like that to be
and
there
it's awesome
for.
you bring your staff into it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They really get into it as well.
Yeah, it's like a great representation of all of the staff's interests, and it's great. It's like you couldn't just pick it from like some board or something. It's like truly like that person loves that, or like that person like loves skateboarding. So like there's this cool badass nonprofit that's all about skateboarding, or
like in Minneapolis we had like juggling a couple months ago, and it was like an organization, like it's a nonprofit that like helps like teach juggling to like people. But like our packaging manager like nominated, it's been a organization that he's nominated ever since he's worked there. And he's like he's kind of reserved, but he comes out and like kind of starts juggling, and it's like it's a really cool way for like us to see like his hobbies and passion, and
Wow. Well, the next question is going to be tough to top.
Oh no. Good luck.
I know, right? What would you consider to be your most successful moment at Indeed Brewing?
Personally?
Sure.
Or like Indeed Brewing's most successful
both.
moment?
Yeah, one of each.
One of each.
Oof.
I know that organization was pretty awesome. The giving program was pretty good. So,
professionally, I guess we did one thing that when Pistachio Cream Ale was going from being a labeled one-off to like a full brand relaunch, we did Pistachio Cream Ale's Biggest Fan Contest that we ran in both Minneapolis and Milwaukee. Gave away a year's worth of beer, and it was like a huge, but it was kind of capitalizing off of like, or just kind of sensing that like all these people are
fucking
saying that they
love-
were the biggest fans. Yeah,
prove it.
And so it was a little bit like, you know, we kind of made them prove it, and people did.
Yeah, it was
And
absurd.
It was, you know, it really like people really followed through on it, and
Wow.
it was like really kind of validating in that way too. Yeah, I don't know. Was there a personal one I was supposed to answer?
That what you said?
Okay.
Wasn't that your professional one?
Yeah.
I think what they were asking, like maybe as Indeed's,
Yeah.
like Indeed's best too.
Yeah, that one too.
Oh shit.
You've had a lot of success though for both locations. So
Yeah,
it's hard to narrow down.
we had, I guess, you know, like going through like COVID for the
Yeah.
2 years, and we came back with our huge like Whirly Gig Festival in Minneapolis. That's part of Art of World, it's a big art festival throughout Northeast Minneapolis. That like, you know, Indeed started when Northeast was starting to become like an arts community. So like really, like it's been like Art of World has been a long-standing event, and we started Whirly Gig, and then it's just an event that everyone's gotten to know. We had to take a couple years off. We came back in 2022 this past May, and it was unreal. Like I had never worked a Whirly Gig before because I started in January 2020. So we were starting to plan for Whirly Gig, and then we had to cancel it. But like coming back 2 years later, and just like it was like our biggest Whirly Gig yet. That felt like
Wow.
really awesome, like company wide, and you know the people who came like loved it, and yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a crazy question. I'm thinking like I feel old, just like going through all my memories. It's like fuck, I'm so old. I think I was gonna say a little bit of COVID, where for our industry it was like pretty bad, right? Like both our own businesses and also most of our customers' businesses, right? You had off-premise that was doing fine, but like we were 50-50 in Minneapolis between off-premise and on-premise. And so 50% of our customers had to shut down, right? And then also our own tap rooms had to shut down.
Yeah.
And so it was like, ultimately, like we were probably, you know, of the businesses, the type of businesses that were affected, we were definitely like, breweries are definitely one of the handful to top 10 or whatever that were like severely affected. And we didn't have to lay anyone off, like due to COVID. We like all took pay cuts. It was still super shitty. Like it was not like a cool like moment by any means, but it was like yeah, it wasn't like cool, but like, you know, and like a lot of bartenders like lost obviously like tons of their wages, right, from not getting tipped. But not having like, I think like getting through that and like a little bit of like, we're all gonna get in this together. We're all gonna like try to make it through. For us, it was a pretty big deal, and in the industry, it was a pretty big deal. I think to like not, you know, have to lay people off at that time. I think that was one success. One of the other things that like I'm most proud of is, at this point, we're not that big of a company still, but I just think of like our general benefits, and maybe this is like a weird thing to be proud of, but it's like a thing that like is very hard to do as a small company, like a small
Yeah.
business. And I've been on leaders, you know, I've been a part of these conversations for like a handful of years now, and it's very hard for like small companies to provide like actual benefits, right? Like actual healthcare or actual PTO or you know. And I think like we've gotten to the point, we've worked through it and like actually gotten to the point where we actually have pretty good benefits.
It's the best benefits I've had. Like I've worked, I'm serious. Yes, like I've worked for corporate, I've worked for smaller, like mid-sized companies, and it's the best benefits, like hands down.
So I think like that, when I was trying to think of like what is actually the coolest, best thing we've done, personally, like I was super involved in the Flavor Wave branding and creation of that brand and beer, and that's like a huge win, right? Like that beer rips, the beer's gorgeous, like the brand is awesome. It shifted our brewery. We never used to have an IPA. You know, our sales were like kind of flat before that beer. So like, if I were to think like on the kind of the surface level, I think that would, or pistachio for sure. Those are the types of things that are like super successful and really cool to look back on and be like, yeah, I had a hand in that. Or yeah, we're like at any of the events we've done in Milwaukee, any of the lowdowns, right? Like But I think overall, like, maybe this is weird, but I do think that like getting to the point of a business where you can provide like actually pretty good benefits and also like pretty decent jobs and pay, is cool. And like, I don't know, it's like, I just think about like all of the times, like when we didn't have Milwaukee Brewery or all the space before, this like kind of trying to make this work, or let's try that thing, or let's try that thing, which we still are doing, but yeah, I think like getting to
Beyond
that
the
point.
beer.
Yeah, I think so.
Success.
Like, there's a little bit of that where like, we love beer, and we love like what it means to like create a positive beer experience is like what we call it. But ultimately, like for businesses to have real effect, like besides the nonprofit stuff, I would have said Indeed We Can for sure. We hadn't just talked about it. It's probably like how do we affect like the people that work for us day in, day out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
I didn't think you could top that question.
What do you think I did?
You can, and you definitely did.
I gave him my best shot. Yeah, that was all bullshit. I'm
People are
kidding.
gonna be lying
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, we don't even have benefits. I'm kidding, we do.
Well, so kind of to wrap things up,
Yeah.
what is next for Indie Brewing? You guys have accomplished so much. What is next?
Ugh.
THC in
Yeah.
Minnesota. That's
Shit, that is next.
it's like Courage and also next.
It's happening
also,
in
like, what are we
Minneapolis.
doing?
Yeah, what the
What's
fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Oh my god, people can get high now legally.
Yeah.
We can sell it to them.
Yeah.
Our brand has always been like tangentially related to drugs, obviously, right? Like you look at our packaging and stuff. It's like it's all in there a little bit. You know, like the Grateful Dead isn't that far away from any of our stuff, or the Beatles. Like it's all there a little bit. So the drugs make sense. Yeah, THC for sure.
Are you able to sell like crawlers and stuff like that? Or do you, I was
Cans.
gonna say,
Yeah.
does it have to be limited
It does
then?
have to
I was
be
like,
limited, yeah.
just chugging a crawler.
Yeah. Yeah, what is next? I mean, I think for both of our spaces, taproom spaces, like we're going into the winter thinking like, how do we make this like a really comfy, awesome space to be in the winter? Because both winters in both areas suck, you know. So we're getting like a bunch of plants down here, like a ton of plants, and you know, some extra types of like programming that's like, let's hang out, like let's make it feel comfy inside. We're doing that in Minneapolis too with the space. You know, kind of like thinking about like how do we hunker down for the winter but do it together a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what's next. You know what's next. I just do whatever she says.
Maybe Mr. Pistachio.
No, we almost bought a mascot, like a full.
Oh my God.
Remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember.
We tried to approve it. It depended, like, kind of like, you know, it was like right in the. It was pretty expensive. Those big mascots are like fucking expensive. But it was like $5 or $7 or something. It was like kind of a lot of money. But also like seeing like the full render of like a full pistachio dude was like, God, is it worth it though? Like, is that actually worth it? Like, probably. It's like not my money, but I'm like, probably though. It's kind of like the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, pistachio guy and pistachios.
I guess we're naming him him or her.
Him or her, honestly. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whatever. Yeah. I
Yeah.
guess we're gonna do that.
Yep, that'll happen. Yeah. I don't
That'll
know.
be fun. Well,
Yeah.
is there anything else that we missed? I think we guys covered it all.
Yeah. I feel like we talked a lot.
Yeah, what about you guys?
Yeah.
Like, what's next for you guys?
Some more brew tours.
Yeah, what's the next one?
I mean, we're hoping to kind of go more out of state.
Yeah.
I feel like,
Where's next?
Minneapolis.
what is
I mean,
next?
I would love to go back to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
We only visited like one brewery when we were there.
Yeah, it was a short trip.
It was very
Don't tell
short.
us what to
Minneapolis, we were probably there. Chicago is drivable.
Yeah.
We did Vegas a few months ago. That
Yeah.
was
Nice.
doing beer in Vegas is kind of different
Yeah.
than expected, but
I don't
pretty cool.
associate any breweries.
You should let us
with
know
Yeah,
definitely.
where you're going. We generally have, weirdly, a lot of connections.
Ooh,
I feel like
okay.
I know a fair amount of the, like, each state I probably have a handful of breweries that I know
Okay.
in which you should let me know.
I mean, I've been
Indianapolis,
trying-
Sun King does not come up here, but they are like everywhere in Indiana, Ohio, Illinois,
Okay.
and Clay. They're great.
Yeah,
great
we'll-
people.
We'll be in touch then.
Or
I mean, I'm
anywhere
always
else.
trying to find reasons to get back to Las Vegas, but
Yeah, beer. I don't know if I know that much There's always like those conferences
Yeah.
that they have in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah, come up to Minneapolis. You should do another. We'll hook up like a whole panel of brewers,
that'd
not
be
just like one. We'll have like you should have a competition, like Fair State, us, Dangerous Man.
Yes.
We can all sit across the table.
Oh
That'd be
yeah,
fun.
that's actually.
We
a
actually
good
could
idea. Yeah.
probably make that happen. But
do it.
yes.
And hopefully you'll be in a mascot suit by that
Yeah,
time.
someone will be. At least Morgan.
I think we missed the opportunity.
Who knows though?
Yeah.
No, we could make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for
Yeah.
being
Yeah,
here
thank
with
you
us.
guys. Appreciate it.
We hope you enjoy your weekend or few
Good.
days in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
We've reached the end of this episode, but there's plenty more to keep you busy. For online source materials and proven case studies delivered right to your inbox, sign up for our mailing list by visiting marketthebrew.com. We'll see you next time on Market the Brew.